What's up, guys? Welcome back to another week's episode of Close by Mo. That's me. My name is Mohammed. I'm hopefully your favorite host on most things real estate on YouTube. I'm also a real estate investor and a realtor based out of New York. Now, this week's video, we're going to talk more about the different components of an offer, so more so from a buyer's perspective, as well as what the buyer or the buyer's agent can do to put their best foot forward in hopes to have the seller accept their offer. I got the inspiration for this video from last week when I was working with a couple of my clients that are buyers, and we were just having the toughest time getting a few of our offers accepted. So we sat down, we had a breakdown, a sort of a brainstorm in terms of what are the components of the offer, what can we tweak, what's within our control, what can we improve to put our best foot forward with the seller to hopefully get an offer accepted, So without further ado, let's jump right into this, and I hope by the end of this you'll be able to maybe share it with any of your buddies that are in the market, or if you're an agent, share it with your clients that are having a little bit of a difficult time understanding what they need to get done to improve their odds of getting an offer accepted. Let's do this. Now, one of the most important things when it comes to presenting an offer is the actual overall presentation style and the acumen of your agent who's doing the presentation or who's submitting the offer on your behalf, if you're using an agent, of course. Now, what I mean by that as a buyer's agent, my advice to all other buyer's agents is don't submit an offer through text. I've literally had this happen to me. Don't submit an offer through voicemail. I've had this happen to me too as a listing agent. I'm not going to remember the random voicemails or the text messages, or if you call me out of the blue to verbally give me an offer. I'm not going to put any weight behind that unless it's in writing. So my recommendation is make sure your agent is submitting everything in writing. Make sure they're actually using the standardized form that are available to them through the local or regional MLS system. We all have standardized documents we should be using. One thing as well that I like to do a lot before submitting an offer or even like sending an email out, I'll call the listing agent. I'll straight up call them and say, hey, Mr. X, Y, and Z, my name's Mohammed. I showed your property a couple of days ago. You should be expecting an offer coming through very shortly. Here's what here's a high-level overview, and then that starts a conversation with them in terms of how the other offers are doing, where maybe our offer ranks, how the seller is leaning one way or the other. It just gives me more substance to go back to my buyer and explain to them what the situation is, and help them decide whether or not they want to maybe tweak their offer a little bit more before the deadline or before the seller makes a decision, right? The second point that obviously always comes to mind is the actual offer price, and I totally understand why a lot of new agents or even first-time home buyers, they think that this is the most important thing of an offer. You can literally do everything else is horrible in the offer, but as long as you have the highest offer price, you think that's going to get your offer accepted. That's not the case, right? And put yourself in the shoes of a seller, right? If you had an offer for someone that was offering $100,000 over your asking price, but it was with a mortgage, and someone that was offering $10,000 below asking price, but it was an all cash and they could close in 7 days, which one do you think you're going to be leaning towards, right? So offer price is not the end all be all. Yes, it is absolutely important. You should work with your agent to figure out what the most realistic offer price is, whether you want to come in a little bit above asking or slightly under asking, depending on what the context is, obviously. The third point is the overall down payment amount, and this is, I think, one of the more important factors when it comes to submitting an offer. As I've mentioned in my other videos too, the larger the down payment, the more the seller is going to love your offer. And obviously, the offers that come in all cash that are close to asking, that's what's most likely going to be accepted by the seller. So again, the bigger the down payment, the more the seller will believe that you have a higher likelihood of closing with the bank, so the bank's going to have less of an issue with underwriting your loan, i.e. the higher the chances of your offer getting accepted. The fourth factor to consider when submitting an offer is the actual pre-approval amount. Now, this is something that I think is more psychological than anything else, but whenever I'm submitting an offer and I'm working with a buyer that has a decent amount of pre-approval with their bank, I will always communicate with the buyer or directly with the loan officer if I have a good relationship with them to provide the buyer with the pre-approval amount of the highest amount. I think I'm rambling a little bit there, but what I mean by that is, let's say for example, the house you like is $500,000, but your pre-approval is at $600,000. So what I would want to submit with the offer when I submit the deal sheet and everything else is the pre-approval that has $600,000 written on it, not the pre-approval that may be custom made for that property that has $500,000 written on it. Because as the seller, when you see all the different offers, if you see someone's offering $500,000, which is your sweet number, but the pre-approval is at $600,000, that tells you that, hey, this person is qualified for more than what they're offering me, so the bank will likely have an easier time underwriting their file and approving their loan to hopefully purchase this house. So that's what the seller is going to gravitate more towards, and that's always why I request the loan officers to give pre-approvals to their buyers with the highest or the maximum amount that they're pre-approved for. Doesn't necessarily mean they have to go buy the biggest house or the most expensive house that they can afford with their pre-approval. It just means it gives you a better foot forward when you're presenting to the seller. That's all I'm saying. The fifth point that you should definitely be considering when submitting any offer is proof of funds. Now, what I say by proof of funds is your most recent bank statement. That's it. You can keep the first page if you want to. I always tell my clients to cross out the account numbers, because that proof of funds is what I'm going to be submitting to the listing agent to help them present their offers to their sellers. The proof of funds is absolutely needed, especially because if you're buying a pretty expensive home, the seller wants to know that you have the money in your account to be able to finance this purchase or buy it outright. So that just helps them give a peace of mind. And naturally, the more money you have in the account, the more comfortable they'll feel. I always tell my clients to put yourself in the seller's shoes. What would you want to see when submitting an offer? And that's basically the psychology behind it. The sixth item, something that I learned very recently, was the actual contract signing percentage amount. Now, what I mean by that is, let's say, for example, your offer gets accepted. More likely than not, at least in New York and the files that I've worked on, you're going to be setting aside a certain percentage for escrow during the actual contract signing. So not on closing. This is separate from your down payment, but this is more so like almost earnest money deposit. Basically shows the seller that you're very serious. So hypothetical example, let's say you have a 20% down offer, right? At contract signing, you say, hey, for contract signing, if this offer gets accepted, Mr. Seller, I'm going to be putting down 5%. What that means is 5% of the overall purchase price of the home is going to be kept in escrow, assuming the offer is accepted at contract signing. This is the same 5%. It's still your money as the buyer. It'll be either be used towards the down payment or the closing cost, whatever it needs to be put towards. And of course, if all that 5% doesn't have to be used, you'll get that money returned back to you. But the higher the amount in terms of contract signing deposit, the more serious it shows that you are to the buyer, which obviously improves your chances of getting the offer accepted. The seventh and final point is the contingencies, which I've also spoken about in this video too, and I'll put a link here again. Inspection contingency, financing contingency, closing date contingency, contingency on being able to sell your previous home before you can buy a new home. These are all different aspects when it comes to the different flavors of an offer. And obviously, the lower the contingencies, or the fewer the contingencies, the stronger your offer is, because then that shows to the seller that, hey, this person has less strings attached to their offer in hopes of closing the deal and selling their home. Now, with that, guys, thank you so much for tuning in for this week. I really appreciate it. Go ahead and drop a like or subscribe, or if you dislike this video, drop a dislike too. I really appreciate it. If you have any comments on what you think I should be talking about, feel free to drop them below. Thanks so much, guys. I hope you enjoy this video and you can share it with your clients or your other buddies that are also real estate agents. Have a good one.